Well, June 25th, 1975, the darkest day in the history of India, when former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi imposed emergency for 21 months, imprisoned more political opponents and censored the press. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi sent us a reminder of those days. He tweeted, saying, "Today is a day to pay homage to all those great men and women who resisted the emergency. The dark days of emergency remind us of how the Congress party subverted basic freedoms and trampled over the Constitution of India, which every Indian respects greatly. The mindset which led to the imposition of the emergency is very much alive amongst the same party which imposed it. They hide their disdain for the Constitution through their tokenism, but the people of India have seen through their antics, and that is why they have rejected them time and time again." Well, this reminder of the Prime Minister comes as the opposition is carrying copies of the Constitution to Parliament, citing an undeclared emergency in India today, is what they say. But what was Narendra Modi doing during the emergency? Well, since he wasn't at all leader, let's take a look at this story that shaped his career. The Navnirman movement in Gujarat, led by students and the middle class against corruption and economic crisis, was a significant initial movement that led to the dissolution of the Congress government. Well, this in fact is Narendra Modi taking part in the Navnirman Andolan, whereas the Yuva Pracharak of the RSS, he was deputed to the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Paridhi to voice the youth movement. Well, this is in fact an excerpt about the Navnirman movement in the pages of Narendra Modi's personal diary. I'm going to read out the entire poem in Hindi. जब कर्तव्य ने पुकारा तो कदम कदम बढ़ गए, जब गूंज उठा नारा भारत माता की जय, तब जीवन का मोह छोड़ प्राण पुष चढ़ गए, कदम कदम बढ़ गए, तोलिया की तोलिया जब चल पड़ी, यौवन की तो चौखट चरमरा गई, सिंहासन हिल गए, प्रजातंत्र के पहरेदार सारे भेदभाव तोड़ सारे अभिनिवेश छोड़ गए, मंजिलों पर मिल गए चुनौती की हर पंक्ति को सब एक साथ पढ़ गए, कदम कदम बढ़ गए, सारा देश बोल उठा, जयप्रकाश जिंदाबाद तो दहल उठा, तानाशाह भुकुतिया तन गई, लाठियां बरस पड़ी सीनों पर माथे पर." A year later, the emergency was imposed and Narendra Modi joined the protests against it. He worked with two RSS leaders very, very closely, Nath Zagda and Vasant Gajendra Gadkar. When censorship peaked, Modi and volunteers organized meetings and took on the responsibility of disseminating underground literature. Due to the scarcity, this was a big challenge. Narendra Modi's solution was loading materials related to the Constitution, laws and Congress government successes into trains departing from Gujarat to other states. This helped deliver messages to remote places with less risk of detection. Now, after the RSS was forced to go underground, the Gujarat Lok Sangharsh Samiti was established. At age 25, he swiftly ascended to the position of its General Secretary within 3 years. The job he took on was to send underground publications abroad and amplify international resistance as well. In one correspondence, which is currently playing on your screens, there was a discussion about collecting paper cuttings of Narendra Modi's articles from publications like the Gujarat Newsletter and the Sadhana Patrika, along with underground literature and prints, intending to broadcast them on platforms like the BBC. Narendra Modi's colleagues abroad sent photocopies of Satyavani and other newspapers published internationally that featured articles opposing the emergency. He would ensure copies of those materials were prepared and then deliver them to the jails. Additionally, underground magazines from Gujarat and Gujarati publications critical of the emergency, such as Sadhana, Bhumiputra by Chunibhai Vaidya and Sadhana in Marathi, were also distributed inside jails. Remarkably, an underground newspaper was regularly published from the Yerawada jail, which of course is in Maharashtra. Now, like other Satyagrahis, Narendra Modi adopted various disguises to evade detection. His disguises were so effective that even long-time acquaintances failed to recognize him. He dressed up as a Swamiji in saffron attire and even as a Sikh wearing a turban. On one occasion, he successfully deceived authorities at a jail to deliver an important document. Now, after the emergency was lifted in 1977, Narendra Modi's activism and leadership during that tumultuous period started to gain recognition. In the same year, Modi was invited to Mumbai to participate in a discussion about the youth's resistance efforts during the emergency. For his contribution to the program, Modi received 250 rupees. This was a program scheduled in 1977 where you can see Narendra Modi's name featured in the participants. In recognition of his fighting spirit and organizational work during the dark days of emergency, Narendra Modi was appointed the Sambhag Pracharak of South and Central Gujarat. He was also entrusted with the important task of preparing the official articles of the RSS during the emergency. In 1978, Narendra Modi authored his first book, Sangharsh Ma Gujarat, a memoir of his experiences as a leader in the underground movement against the emergency in Gujarat. The book was written in just 23 days and launched by Babu Bhai Jasbhai Patel, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and was published by Sadhana Weekly. During the launch ceremony, Narendra Modi, then 27 years old, expressed gratitude to the courageous workers, intellectuals, and also the journalists who had played crucial roles in producing and distributing underground bulletins and literature during the emergency. Sangharsh Ma Gujarat is a significant memoir chronicling the experiences during the emergency period and also documenting the collective resistance to it. In fact, Sangharsh Ma Gujarat was very well received and was widely acknowledged for its objective coverage of the dark days of emergency. A review of the book was broadcast on Akashvani, the national public radio broadcaster of India, from Vadodara and Mumbai. Remember, several books have been published in many languages about the emergency crisis since it ended. Almost everyone has claimed that they have written only what they have seen or heard from standard sources. The author of this supplement does not claim to write shocking stories or reveal new truths, but it contains something new and something that is being discovered for the first time, quote unquote. Several prominent newspapers, including the Gujarat Daily Phul Chhap and national English papers like the Hindustan Times and the Indian Express, featured reviews like the one I just read out and covered the book's launch as well. Narendra Modi also received several personal letters reviewing his book and praising his monumental and unique effort. Amongst those letters was one that stood out as particularly special. Just 2 days after attending the book's launch, the sitting Chief Minister Babu Bhai Jasbhai Patel sent a letter to Narendra Modi, praising the book for its wealth of information and also objective approach to the subject matter. Patel also thanked Narendra Modi for painstakingly compiling a variety of information about the emergency. Joining us at this point to discuss this further is Professor Rajveer Sharma, RSS thinker. We also have Himanshu Bhatt, senior journalist, live with us. Professor Rajveer Sharma, it certainly was a dark day in 1975. What are your memories of it, and what are the lessons that can be learnt 49 years hence?
In fact, as you have rightly said, that 1975, 25th June, will be remembered as the darkest phase in independent India's democracy. Now, those were the days. In fact, I was teaching in the university when people were arbitrarily arrested, not only during the day but at midnight. Nobody knew as to when the police will come, at whose doors the police will come, and the police will not listen to what you are saying, nor the police will tell you why are you being arrested. And the members of the family were distraught. They were afraid almost every 24 hours. And the rulers of the day, those who were in power at that time, they in fact prepared a list not of those who were engaged in any kind of activity unlawful, but those who belonged to any ideology opposed to theirs. That was their fault. And it was a time when the arrested had no right to go to the judiciary. They did not have any hope of getting relief from the judiciary. It was a time when the government of the day tried to, not only tried, but amended the constitution, rather overhauled the constitution to get benefits out of those amended provisions. And you will agree perhaps with me that emergency was not imposed for any reason or a threat to either the internal security or the external threats to the nation, but it was basically imposed to save the chair on which the Prime Minister of the day, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, was sitting. She knew that without containing the opposition to the what they called illegal occupation or unconstitutional authority, that the power will slip out of her hands, and therefore she imposed this emergency. That is known. Now, many people, in fact, from the Congress and the opposition are asking a question these days as to why the BJP or the people who suffered the excesses of emergency are talking of emergency now after almost 50 years. And it is here that I would like to say that anything which has gone wrong, which was against the democratic principles, which went against the Constitution, and particularly the lessons must be learned by those who talk of the Constitution and democracy and its defense these days very vehemently. It is imperative to remind them what emergency and what emergency did to democracy and the Constitution. And if we don't remind them, because their mindset is one which requires continuous reminder to change that mindset. It is the mentality, and therefore there's a necessity to remember those days. In fact, I can say that many eminent leaders and defenders who really worked for the strength and progress of the nation, who contributed a lot to nation building, and one of them was Jayaprakash Narayan, who launched a campaign in Gujarat and Bihar, not against any political kind of a system, but against corruption. And unfortunately, he was detained during emergency, and his health also underwent a very serious threat. And we remember that after release from the jail, he lost his life within a year or so. And we lost a great crusader for honesty, integrity in governance. We need such kind of reminders that this is what is called defending democracy. This is what is called fighting against dictatorship. This is what is called fighting for the defense of the Constitution. Not slogans, not merely creating some kind of a drama. Defense of the Constitution is the responsibility of every citizen of the country, whether he or she belongs to the opposition or he or she contributes or belongs to the ideology.
Absolutely.
Of those who are in
Absolutely.
power.
This is very relevant even today, says Prime Minister Modi. In fact, he started out, Himanshu Bhatt, the 18th session of the Lok Sabha by saying that this was the worst attack on the Constitution ever. And he says it from experience. Narendra Modi was not just a witness, but someone who did a lot of sangharsh in 1974 to 77, wasn't it, Himanshu Bhatt, in Gujarat?
Yes, I'll tell you something. I'll put this chronology. See, it's something like this. Bharat became independent in 1947, and not even 30 years had passed. We were imposed, emergency. Before we really become independent or free, that emergency was brought on us. Congressists say, even today, just Karti Chidambaram was telling in your program that, we accepted our mistake. Indira Gandhi accepted and moved on. This is an undeclared emergency. But you moved on at what cost? That's my basic question. And that's where I come in, that basically what happened was, see, actually that entire Andolan, Navnirman Andolan, what we call it, and I was a student there, 14-year-old in Ahmedabad. I have seen that. I have gone through that. I have been fasting on the day when 14 teenagers like us were taken away by police. They kept us for the full day in a thara without giving us food. That is what we have seen. And after that came emergency. The shock of the life was such, Uday, you will be surprised, that by 7 or 7:30 or 8 o'clock when it is dark, it's very difficult to get out at that time. If you want to buy something for food, you can't go out. That was the scare. Anytime a policeman going, people used to be scared. And teenagers like us, 14, 15, we were just growing up, were suffering the worst nightmare. That mentality and that mindset, as Professor Rajvi Singh was telling, it takes years to go. The shackles of, slavery that needed to be broken in the first 25 years in our mindset took another 30 years because of that emergency, that 2.5 years of emergency that was imposed by Indira Gandhi. And that is what, that's why, Narendra Bhai, when he says, Aapda mein avsar, he says, that underground magazines and underground network that he ran, you know something? Even today, there are so many friends. They are working in tandem with the Prime Minister and his circles. They are the ones across the world. You are talking about US. Do you know something? When he was first time denied visa by US government, when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, how many Gujaratis came out against it? But before that, Narendra Bhai had been to US at least 3 times. See, that is what we are talking about. And, when 22 months or 24 months of emergency, it might sound very small, but the scar it has put in on the free Indian mind is very big. Dr. Sharma ji has already said about Jayaprakash Narayan. JP Lok Nayak Jayaprakash Narayan, we used to call him and we used to revere when we were young. And he was talking of only corruption.
Absolutely.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.